says 5. I didn't know we could count that high.
We continue our trip across the Atlantic here on the channel. Now, last week I put out a guest host Raw from Sheffield, England, and then we put out the WXW Germany vlog, and this week we have our last stop overseas for the time being as we visit a classic WWF UK-exclusive pay-per-view. I'm talking about Insurrextion 2001 from May 5th at Earl's Court in London, England, exclusively on Sky Box Office. Well, over in the States, Backlash had just wrapped up. The two-man power trip, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H working alongside Mr. McMahon. They have all the gold now. Austin's the WWF champion, Triple H won the Intercontinental title, and then at Backlash they beat the Undertaker and Kane to win the tag belts and consolidate all that gold. And then afterward, the power trip took Kane out with a broken arm, so the dead man is now all by himself, pretty much sitting alone as the last top babyface worth any kind of salt right now, who isn't tied up in something else that has a chance against Steve Austin for the title, which is pretty sad. And by the way, I know a lot of you asked about the Backlash 2001 review because I did that a long time ago. It also got blocked, and I might eventually have to re-review that like I did, Mania 17, but that's going to be a while before I visit that again because I don't want to do too many of these like revisited shows. You obviously want fresh content, so I'm going to space that one out for a little while. So the show begins with a cold open with Commissioner William Regal dressed pretty casually for him, and he's on the phone with Kurt Angle. And by the way, he is in the tiniest office I've ever seen. If it weren't for the fact that later on you see a door on the side, I thought they were filming this in the back of like a moving truck. So Regal tells Kurt he needs to get to the arena right away. He says, "I've just been informed your match has changed, my match has changed, the whole card's turned upside down." In comes Mr. McMahon looking all pissy, and he's getting mad at Regal for making all these changes. Changes. You made this match, you made that match, you made a 2 out of 3 falls match with Benoit and Angle, you made a match for yourself and Chris Jericho for the Queen's Cup. And right when I'm asking, wait a minute, what the hell is the Queen's Cup? Regal says, well, I didn't make these changes either, Vince. And by the way, the word changes is going to be said about 700 times in the course of this 2-minute opening segment. So Vince goes, well, if you didn't make these changes and I didn't make these changes, then who did make these changes? And so Regal goes, well, Vince, it was actually your wife who's here in town for a charity event. And he gets all pissed and everything, and he's muttering to himself and saying, oh, that bitch wife of mine, all these changes, it's gonna stop. No more changes. I'm the boss. No changes whatsoever. But in comes Linda, and then Vince changes his tune. Speaking of changes, and that is where we are in the storyline now. Linda's no longer sedated, and now she's kind of firing back at Vince, who wanted to divorce her, and now she has turned the tables in a wrong way on him and wants to divorce him. And so now this is all part of kind of the cat and mouse, and Vince is finally getting some of his thanks to Linda and whatnot. And she goes, change is good sometimes, Vince. I looked at the card and reconstructed it because the fans in the UK deserve to see the best the WWF has to offer, which makes me wonder, what was Vince booking beforehand? What was his mindset in kayfabe? I'm gonna book a real shitty show and we're gonna kill the town and never be brought back. But then Vince goes, no changes to the Handicap main event, right? And then she goes, no, because the Undertaker didn't want changes and actually wants to fight Austin and Triple H at the same time because he's an idiot, I guess. So Linda leaves, Vince kind of mocks her voice and makes a mess. He knocks down Regal's tea set, and then it just ends on the strangest note ever, where he says to Regal, on a more personal note, I'm hearing about this foot and mouth disease spreading. Is that possible? Could a human ever get foot and mouth disease? And then Regal's like, gosh, I don't know, Vince, maybe. And then Vince goes, that's disgusting. And then the camera just pans over to Regal, who's making a face, shaking his head. And welcome to Insurrextion! Wow, that's such a great way to get the fans pumped up for a pre-taped segment there. This feels like it was all done in the very first take, and they had no time for retakes. They had to get this up on the VTR or in the truck or whatever right away. So that's what you got. We go live to the arena and it's the Raw set. A bit more than 16,000 folks packed Earl's Court on this day, and I would imagine that the folks who bought the tickets for this show probably about 6 months beforehand were expecting a very different landscape in the WWF at the time. The somewhat rare combination of Michael Cole and Paul Heyman are on the horn for this one, and we open up with Grandmaster Sexay taking on Eddie Guerrero in singles action. Guerrero, not the European champion anymore, recently lost it to Matt Hardy. And of course, Sexay's been on his own since Scotty 2 Hotty broke his ankle. Eddie starts out fast against Grandmaster. He even puts on the shades for a second, but Sexay fights back. There's a big sign on the hard cam that says, "I bought Road Dogg on eBay," which is a weird and funny statement in and of itself, but keep your eye on this guy because he's got a lot of bangers, so to speak, throughout the course of this show. Sexay doing a bit too much dancing. Eddie jumps him, then does some Elaine-style dancing of his own. Sexay comes back, hits an awful powerbomb on Eddie where he himself falls over. Then he brings out the flying goggles, goes for a hip-hop drop, but nobody home. Grandmaster stops the frog splash from happening, goes for a Bronco Buster type maneuver but misses. Eddie with a roll-up, using the ropes to get the win. I give it 2 stars out of 5. This is a short and sweet match, consequence-free, which unfortunately is kind of the mood for the entirety of this show. It's basically a Fancy Dan house show, for lack of a better term. But these are 2 great personalities who are masters at crowd work. And, you know, you can't have a much better combination to open the show and get the crowd pumped up than that. Back in the dressing room, Triple H is yucking it up with his wife, Stephanie, and I swear he's just coming in saying, "And then I killed him. Do you get it?" And then Stephanie kind of changes the subject and says, "Oh, you seem awful calm tonight, considering what the Undertaker's put you and Steve through." And then Triple H basically says, "Oh, tonight here in this crap hole of a country in England, the Undertaker is going to have his last ride." Up next, they're announcing it as a 6-person tag team match with the Radicalz, that's Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and Terry, taking on the Holly Cousins, Hardcore, Crash, and Molly. But Terry gets on the mic, clearly not dressed to wrestle, and she goes, "I came to this country looking for amenities, and can you believe no one sells wrestling boots here in England? I don't have wrestling gear for this, so I can't be in this match, so it's going to be a plain tag," is her verbiage. Plain tag, I like that. Oh goody, I like when we get downgrades in our wrestling. Hey, you want a cool 6-person tag? Hey, you want to see Terry Runnels maybe get hers in this thing? No, regular tag. But Molly goes for Terry right away. They trade slaps, then Molly with a Northern Lights and a giant swing to send Terry packing. And there's that guy with the sign again, "Stasiak stole my tape recorder." Hardcore and Saturn, they're working a little bit. Holly with that thinly veiled low blow. He gets cut off. Saturn goes for a flying elbow, but he misses. Hardcore's going for the Alabama Slam, but Saturn thinks he's taking a backdrop, so it doesn't end up looking very good. Crash gets the hot tag, and right then I'm like, wait a minute, why is Molly still on the apron when this is not a 6-person tag anymore? Anyway, Crash takes down Saturn with the acid drop for some reason while Spike Dudley is working there now. Terry gets in the ring, and then Molly jumps in and goes after her, and Paul Heyman yells, "I love short skirts!" Paul, it's a good thing that Jerry Lawler's gone for a while. We don't need a replacement for him. In the chaos, we get the moss-covered 3-handled family Gradunza by Saturn to Crash for the win. I also give this one 2 stars out of 5. It felt like kind of a paint-by-numbers tag match, you know, kind of an interesting way to get Terry involved, then uninvolved, and then re-involved again by just kind of changing the rules. And that's another thing I think is funny about this, because there are times when the card is going to be changed after Vince McMahon's like, "No more changes." They show a recap of Willie Reeves hanging out in London, making a lot of media appearances and doing signings to promote the show. Fans come out in droves to see him. There's one guy with a sign saying "Regal for King." Hey buddy, just wait 7 years. Back in the office, we see Regal shining up the Queen's Cup. There it is. It's so shiny and important all of a sudden. But you know what? God, it's on the tip of my tongue. It looks so familiar, that trophy, but I can't place it at the moment. It's killing me. So one of the recent developments after Backlash is that, Shane McMahon and The Big Show had a last man standing match, and in the end, Test helped Shane win. And so ever since then, Show has been after Test for revenge. And so we were supposed to get those two in a match tonight on the pay-per-view, but then they show a recap of SmackDown where Show jumped Test mid-match. So Test apparently now has injured ribs and is unable to compete tonight. And I feel like, between after the wedding to Stephanie angle died down and when the alliance picked him up later this year. I think Test spent more time being like kayfabe injured than uninjured, because he gets his ribs hurt here. Like the year before, he spent like months in the nose brace or whatever. Like it just keeps going. Like, he suffers so much in this run. Then the Big Show makes his way to the ring, and he says he didn't come all the way to this rinky-dink island not to fight. He accuses Test of having yellowitis, which, as we all know, is inflammation of the yellow. But he just keeps saying, oh, Test, you know, if you were a man, you would fight me. You're just a coward. He goes, fight me like a man. Do you understand? I'm a giant. Then here comes Test in his street clothes, selling his ribs, making his way to the ring, looking real mad. Damn, he's taking a long time to get there too, because I've never heard his theme make it all the way through the first loop on TV before. So Big Show repeats what he said earlier, Test's music still playing as he slowly removes his shirt, showing off the DDP tribute with the taped ribs, shows all over him. I'm guessing this is a match now because there is a referee in the ring, but there is no bell. It's just kind of a back and forth fight where Test is fighting for a minute, but then Show hits a side slam. The ribs are a huge target. This fan once again with a great sign, Big Show, make a coat out of my flesh, which is an amazing callback to one of the worst promos of all time. And the build to SummerSlam 99, The Undertaker telling the story of he and the Big Show riding motorcycles to the desert. You just go look that one up. So Show just beats him up more, and eventually more refs come in and stop the fight, so I guess it wasn't a match after all. Then Show grabs the mic and says nobody here or in the back or on this planet can stop him one-on-one. As he makes his way up the ramp, suddenly we hear the APA music, and Bradshaw has answered the call. So now this is a match, and we get a bell, which again makes you wonder, why was the referee out there earlier if he and Test weren't supposed to have a match? Speaking of whom, they're still checking on Test outside the ring as this match goes on and on. Bradshaw dodges the elbow drop, hits a flying shoulder tackle off the top. Show slowly struggles to push Bradshaw out of the ring. He grabs a chair, shoves the ref away, then goes over and beats up Test some more. He wants to hit Test with a chair, but Test hits him with the boot. Bradshaw with the clothesline from hell. Bradshaw wins. I'm going to give this whole segment from start to finish 3 stars. From Show coming out, beating up Test, having the match with Bradshaw, Test coming in to save him. I think that was kind of a neat way to, give Bradshaw a little push. I don't know what the legitimacy of Test's injury here was, or if they're just kind of doing a way to kind of like lengthen this angle or whatnot. But I think, it was a good way to incorporate all 3 of them, make Test have a moment to look good against Show here and not look like a total chump getting beat up. So I think overall this is a very good chapter in the show. Jonathan Coachman's in the promo zone with double champ Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's rocking a big cut around his eye after The Undertaker threw him through a plate glass window on SmackDown this past week. That scene made me laugh watching back because it's very obvious they pipe in some different broken glass sound when Austin goes through.
Someone was gonna get hurt tonight!
So Coach starts out by saying The Undertaker asked for this handicap match, and Austin goes, how stupid is The Undertaker to request a match like this? He nearly blinded me, so he's got something coming to him, and me and Triple H will take Undertaker out just like we did his brother Kane. And then he wraps it up by saying, I don't feel bad for too many people, but I do feel sorry for The Undertaker that his career is going to end in this crap hole country. Can any heel on this show do anything else and say anything for heat besides England sucks? A 4-way elimination tag match up next. You got the Dudley Boyz, the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and X Factor. The last 2 teams, for whatever reason, don't get entrances on this version of the show I watched. I assume there were some rights reasons for X Factor's entrance not being played because, the Uncle Cracker theme or whatever. But I don't understand why Edge and Christian's was cut as well. Did they make some local sports reference that was too vulgar? I don't know. Also worth mentioning at this point, the Hardy Boys are kind of dipping their toes in the singles realm as of late. Jeff famously upset Triple H in the build to Backlash to hold the Intercontinental title for about a week. And then recently, Matt beat Eddie Guerrero to become the European champion. A lot of quick tags in and out for most of these guys as the match starts off. Matt getting a case of ring post-itis as X-Pac distracts the ref. Heyman calling Just Incredible a one-man crime spree on commentary here, which of all the people to waste that nickname on, boy, it's a tragedy. Maybe it's in the sense that it's criminal that he was pushed so hard as the face of ECW for so long in 2000. Jeff gets a hot tag and is all over X Factor. Everyone comes in now for some reason. Albert splashes his own man, the Hardys take advantage, Swanton Bomb sees the Purple Crew gone, then right away Matt gets beat up on the outside, ENC capitalize, and Jeff gets eliminated. We're down to the Dudleys and Edge and Christian, then they hit a double flapjack.
It's called the flapjack. Okay.
We get the classic story of the heels luring Bubba Ray out so they can double team Devon for a bit. We even get the old hot tag fake out. Bubba finally gets the hot tag. We get the was up. They go for a table. They outsmart Edge and Christian. The referee gets distracted. Rhino comes in and lays out Bubba with a gore. Edge with the cover and the win for his team. But you know we gotta send these folks home happy. After the bell, Rhino wants to do more damage, but then Spike Dudley comes out and makes the save. Rhino takes the 3D and the Dudleys stand tall at the end. I give it 2.5 stars out of 5. I don't have much to say about this matchup. It did feel like we were watching two different matches though, because like you have one match and then it's like interrupted by a couple of eliminations and like, okay, break time over, now the second match has begun. They show a recap of the WWF doing a charity dinner for Make-A-Wish the previous night, and the segment ends with Stephanie slapping Michael Cole during the event. And hey look, there's Eamon Holmes from GMTV in the house, Chris Tarrant from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Gianfranco Zola from Chelsea. Ooh, the crowd didn't like him.
Huge reaction from Gianfranco.
We see Coach in the promo zone with Kurt Angle talking about 2 out of 3 falls with Chris Benoit. And hey, you lost your gold medals last week. Then Kurt interrupts saying his medals were stolen, and even these people in England could see that. He says he's going to beat Benoit twice and put the medals back around his neck where they belong. But first, it's Right to Censor time. Steven Richards and Ivory make their way to the ring. You can see Ivory holding a copy of The Sun. I think I know where this is going. So Steven gets on the mic and says, people should come to England looking for Big Ben and the London Bridge, not looking at naked breasts on page 3 of a newspaper. And so then Ivory opens it up. You see the Censor logos covering it up. Big pop for page 3, by the way, here with the crowd. He tells the crowd he's going to be their Martin Luther King, their Winston Churchill. I will fight for you. I think those are two very different people to compare yourself to. But he says he spoke to Commissioner Regal, and now he is able to censor the Divas Battle Royal, by which he means cancel. He is canceling the Divas Battle Royal. So he wants to bring out all the ladies so they can change their ways, I guess. We have Jacqueline, we have Trish Stratus, who Steven introduced as busy pushing up her breasts a few minutes ago. And then it's time for Lita. And wow, this is the WWF's women's division, everybody. Like, you know, Molly Holly wrestled earlier, and you know, Chyna is the champion at this point, not on this show, and she will wrestle Lita at Judgment Day, but like, outside of that, this is pretty much it for 2001. Ivory talks down to all 3 of them and calls them street walking slappers. Hey, sounds like the writers asked around for some slang. Ivory says she will continue to fight the good fight. Then she immediately gets her ass kicked and stripped by the other ladies. Ivory's scandalized and runs off as Richards is pissed. He calls the other ladies hussies. Jackie and Lita get mad at first, but Trish has a plan because she is mastered in the art of seduction after all. She's been practicing. And so she gets in Steven's face and like tries to undo his belt and talk all sexy, and he just makes this funny noise. Then she hits a low blow and they pants him. Jackie hits a DDT, then Lita with the scariest moonsault ever. Well, that was not a battle royal. In fact, even if the match went on as planned, I would find it hard to believe that 4 ladies is a battle royal. But, you know, it was a segment to pop some fans with the titillation and RTC literally showing ass in this segment. So again, I think everything on this show is designed with like the fans just being happy at the end of every segment in mind. Up next, 2 out of 3 falls. Kurt Angle taking on Chris Benoit. The rivalry between these two continuing after WrestleMania. The two had an ultimate submission match at Backlash, ending with Benoit getting the win. And then the following night on Raw, Angle was complaining about losing. They fought again. And then Benoit purloined Angle's, quote, Olympic gold medals. So both guys make their entrance. Angle demands to know where the medals are, but Benoit tells him, don't worry, Kurt, they're in a safe, warm place. What could he mean by that? As the match goes on, Heyman says that Curt without his gold medals is like Linus without his security blanket. Do the UK fans know about peanuts? Great back and forth between the two. We get the chops, we get the suplexes. Benoit with some consecutive suplexes. A tribute to Dynamite Kid, says Heyman. Wow, he and Chris Benoit are definitely two names you don't say anymore. Does a few Germans in a row, hits the big flying headbutt, and gets the first fall clean as can be. Angle fights back after the first fall, does some damage on the outside, hits a big top rope suplex as well. Benoit hits more suplexes, goes for another diving headbutt but gets none of it. The ankle lock is countered into the crossface. There's a struggle. Benoit rolls up Angle and beats him 2 falls to none. Oh! Then after the bell, Benoit reminds Curt about the medals and he pulls them out from the front of his trunks and puts them on. The nerve of him! I give it 3.5 stars out of 5. This is another great technical masterclass by these guys, but I just don't think it has the same kind of oomph and drama as their previous 2 encounters at WrestleMania and Backlash. Like, I don't think every 2 out of 3 falls match needs to go the full 3 because that's very formulaic, but on the other hand, it just feels like that's for maximum drama's sake to go 3. We see Austin and Triple H and Stephanie hanging out in the power trip zone. Austin calls for Deborah and he asks her for some water. Then Triple H goes, "Actually, I'd like some water, please. Make it cold." Then Stephanie wants some tea, and then Deborah tells him off and goes, "Well, I'm not your errand girl, and you should be more worried about the Undertaker." But this whole stuff with Deborah being defiant in the face of the power trip and like her husband and all this stuff, it goes nowhere ultimately. And whether that's a result of storylines being changed because of the impending invasion or what, I'm not sure. But it just feels like between the stuff building up to Mania, where Deborah was involved and she wasn't, and the stuff we're getting in the power trip era, where Deborah is consistently kind of like trying to tell Steve off or kind of like be kind of the counteracting voice, it doesn't go anywhere for her. Up next, the Queen's Cup match as William Regal takes on Chris Jericho. And there is some blatant copying of their own homework on this show. It is kind of the case with the UK pay-per-views. They will just recycle hype packages from American pay-per-views and put them in here. That's what they did with the Regal Jericho part, because the first half of it is literally beat for beat the exact same one they ran in WrestleMania 17. And then they just butt in this thing, this little update with Backlash and the Duchess of Queensberry rules match that Regal cheated to win, essentially. There it is, the prestigious Queen's Cup, which we are just learning about tonight. Man, why can't I put a finger on where I've seen this before? Wait a minute. I see it now! That's right, it's the same damn trophy as what they use for King of the Ring later this same year when they give it to Edge. Unreal that they would just repurpose that and think they could get away with it. They thought they could just do a soft launch for it on the UK show. Hey, no one outside that country is going to see this one. And they put a new cup on top of it, and they thought they could call it a day. Oh man, they couldn't get past me on this one. But they did get their money's worth in 2001 for that trophy, I will say that. Some nice European-style graps to start things off. Smooth back and forth between them. Look at the huge bruise on Regal's leg here. Even Heyman mentions it. Regal takes too much time grandstanding on the top rope. He takes a Hurricane Rana for it. Regal with a big old German suplex has him on top for a while. He assaults Jericho on the outside. Very interesting crowd reactions for Regal, by the way, because like they hate him because he's a heel, but at the same time, at first they're going to cheer most of what he does because he's an Englishman. Jericho fights out of a hold but gets tied up in the ropes and Regal takes advantage. Heyman cannot stop calling Regal the physical commissioner. Double down after Jericho hits an enziguri. Big comeback for Chris. He fights for the bulldog, goes for the lion salt, but the knees are up. Big ol' suplex by Regal. I like that one. Jericho with a counter gets Regal in the walls. Regal taps out and Jericho wins the Queen's Cup. But Regal's a sore loser and he clatters Jericho with the trophy. Hits him again and again until the damn thing breaks. Big wave, big wave. I give this match 4 stars out of 5. It's a great match. I think it's the best one in their series, like way better than Mania and all the cockamamie stuff with Duchess of Queensberry rules. And I think it's even better than the Angle Benoit match from the same show. Main event time. It's a handicap match for the WWF Championship as Steve Austin defends alongside Triple H versus the Undertaker. And they're doing it again. They just repurposed the Backlash hype package and slap on a little post-pay-per-view update. I did like in the first part of the package, a little ha 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 they put in there as the power trips looking all evil.
No one can stop us!
First thing you hear from the ring announcer in this is, if The Undertaker beats Stone Cold Steve Austin, he will become the WWF champion. Oh, so that's how we're getting around this then. Big pop for the detestable heel in Stone Cold as he makes his way to the ring. The Undertaker comes armed with a chair at first, but then the match begins and the heels start stomping. And as the heels are getting their licks in, Michael Cole has one of the weirdest lines I've ever heard, where he goes, "The audacity, the ego of Stone Cold. Look at his knee braces. He's got the rattlesnake print on him. The man's on a power trip." What? He's got an ego because he's got custom knee braces now? That was such a weird line. So out of pocket. And one thing I think is cool about heel Steve Austin is that he actually did get like the colored knee braces. That's how you knew he was a baddie. I love the massive banner for Gangrel that's showing huge on the hard cam. I just now caught that. Taker starts fighting back. He chases the H-Man up the ramp. Austin catches up to them. He tries the pile driver on the floor. Crazy how he never pulls that off. The whistles and the horns in the crowd have been blaring throughout the entire show, but never as like loud and boisterous as they are for this matchup. I can't count the number of times I heard beep, 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 beep. Dog show. We get the Undertaker and Triple H going one-on-one for a bit after that. Taker hits the old school. And you know, I realized we've been calling that move old school for longer than the Undertaker was using it before calling it old school. Triple H to the cutoff, he tags Austin in. Okay, now he's getting booed. I like Taker's goozle counter for the elbow drop by Austin. Triple H is back in the ring. We get a double down. Stephanie gets on the apron. That allows Austin to dink the dead man with a chair. Austin and H with a lot of team cohesion, more dueling horns and whistles from the crowd. Trips goes for an all-time picture-perfect flying nothing but falls right into a boot. They're fighting on the outside. Taker like disposes of Austin, turns around, takes 2 steps, and just walks over and like intercepts Triple H, who's jumping in from out of nowhere, and then choke slams him through the announce table. That was amazing. Goozle to Austin, but Steph interferes again. Austin takes Taker to Dick Kick City. Taker manages to push through. He choke slams Austin. Ooh, you can see him bleeding from the ear at this point. Then he just walks around taking forever to cover him. I think he's waiting to see like Triple H get in position to cut him off, but you can hear Triple H just screaming off camera, "Cover him! Cover him!
Triple H is down! Cover him!
So then he goes for the cover, Trips breaks it up. Suddenly, Mr. McMahon shows up with a chair. He goes to hit Taker, but dead man ducks, dickhead dinks doofus. Undertaker takes out Vince, chokeslams Triple H, and covers him to win the match, but not the title. Womp womp. But he chokeslams Austin, beats him with the chair after the bell. Taker's covered in blood, but is able to walk out the empty winner. And they go, "What a huge win for the Undertaker. He got a measure of revenge for his brother Kane. He didn't win the title, but oh, he made a statement." They might as well have dropped balloons from the rafters and played John Philip Sousa while he was riding off into the sunset. I give the match 3.5 stars out of 5 because it's a good handicap match. Even with all the craziness of all the outside interference, I think it all served a purpose, and Taker did look good fighting them all off. And, you know, it is a very much a kissing your sister moment to, like, you know, they telegraphed from the beginning that, oh, Taker's not winning this thing because he has to pin Austin, and Austin's not taking that pin. So that's what Triple H is there for. That said, my grade for Insurrextion 2001 is a C+. It would get a higher grade if I was judging this on, like, how good a house show it was, because again, that's basically what this was. This is before WWE Today, where they can go overseas and do shows there and they air internationally. You know, this was restricted to one audience, so it's essentially non-canon. It does have all the positive outcomes, like baby faces are either all winning or they're all standing tall at the end. There are fun moments on this show, but ultimately there's nothing of consequence on it. And if you're a completionist like myself, then it's fun to watch this and kind of see how the show was treated there. But what did you think of Insurrextion 01, and how about this review? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'm sure there are some UK viewers watching this video who actually attended Insurrextion back in the day. I would love to get your thoughts and insight and memories of what it was like in Earl's Court. But next time here on the Classic Review, next week in fact, we go back to America. We continue the timeline of WWF in 2001, and I'm going to review the last pay-per-view from the year I've not touched touched yet. The final show just before the Invasion storyline really kicks into high gear. I'm talking about, as Jerry Lynn would say, Judgment Day 2001. But until then, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.